Hi everybody, my name is Rachel Reynolds and I work for Healthy Communities of the Capital Area for their main SNAP Ed program. So I am just getting ready to make some dinner and I figured I'd do a video and have you join me. And my dinner for tonight is going to be broccoli soup. Okay, so for this soup, you're going to need 1 large onion, 1 large potato, a medium carrot, a stalk of celery, although I didn't have any celery, so I am going to use a little bit of celery seed in mine that I'll add like towards the end, just to get some of that celery flavor in there without having the celery on hand. And then also excuse me, I have broccoli and I also have some cauliflower. The recipe calls for 2 large broccoli crowns, and I only had 1, but I happened to have some cauliflower on hand, so I decided to substitute some of the broccoli with cauliflower. And when I cut it up and got it ready, I also took the time to peel and cut up the stems as well, because they'll work just fine in the soup. Okay, then you're also going to need a large clove of garlic, either 2 like 15-ounce cans or 1 box of stock. So I'm using a vegetable stock. You could use a vegetable or chicken stock, and if you don't happen to have any stock on hand, you could replace it with just water, and then I would just add a little bit more seasoning to make sure that you get enough flavor in your soup. Okay, so we have that, and then we have 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and we're going to need 1/2 teaspoon of canola oil, or you could just use like a cooking spray, and then a cup of low-fat milk as well. And lastly, just an ounce or so of like a low fat cheddar cheese, okay, that we've grated already. Okay, so I have started off, I've already washed my hands and I've washed my countertop surfaces, and of course I've washed all of the vegetables that I'm going to use in the recipe. I've chopped up my large onion and cut it down like into a small dice. Okay, and I've already got that set aside, because to begin the recipe you need to cook the onion for about 6 to 8 minutes in the oil on the stove around medium heat until it gets translucent and even like a little bit brown before you start adding the other ingredients. Okay, so I've cut up most of my vegetables already. I just have a little bit of the potato left to go. I've actually decided to leave the peel on my potato. The recipe says to peel the potato, but this is a new potato and the skin was very, very thin. So I opted to leave it on because there are a lot of nutrients in the peel. Okay, so I'm just going to finish cutting that up. Very carefully, of course. You always want to make sure that you keep your fingers out of the way. And the way I do that is when I'm cutting, I try to make my fingers into like a claw as I'm moving along so that the knife's edge doesn't touch them. Okay, so my potato is all cut up, okay, and I've got my onion cooked. So the next step is that I'm going to need to add in the liquid. So I'm going to add in my veggie stock to the onions. And then I'm going to add in the milk. That's just a cup of low-fat milk. And then I have my carrots and my garlic already cut up. And then of course my potatoes. Okay, so those are all going into the pot. And I'm going to put that back on the stove, but I'm going to hold off on adding my cauliflower and broccoli. I'm going to give the other vegetables about a 5 or 6 minute head start so that they can start cooking before I add in the cauliflower and broccoli. Otherwise, the potatoes especially could still be kind of crunchy rather than being soft, and that would not be a good texture to have. Okay, so I'm going to put this back on the stove and get it going, and I will be back in just a few minutes. Okay, so I cooked my batch of vegetables in the stock and the milk for about 6 minutes until the potatoes and the carrots got soft. And then I added my broccoli and cauliflower in after that, and I let it cook for about another 10 minutes. So once that was done, I took half of the soup and put it into a bowl, and I had to let it take some time to cool off because I needed to put it in the blender. And when you blend food, you never want to try to blend something that's hot. It can actually be really dangerous. So I let it cool off for a little while, and then I blended half of it and added it back. And when that was all done, I added the salt, the pepper, and the celery seed. And I grated the cheese and added that as well. So just a little tip on grating cheese. If you do like to grate your own cheese, it actually can be a lot more affordable to do that. But it can also be a little bit challenging. So this called for like a low-fat grated or shredded cheese. And what I like to do that is I actually put mine in the freezer. That way when I go to grate it, it's not really soft and crumbly and kind of falling apart as I grate it or getting stuck in the grater along the way. And that just makes it a lot easier to get it done. Okay, so before I show you the finished soup, I just want to touch a little bit around the recipe and the nutrition for the recipe. So obviously this is mainly vegetables. So you have your onion, your carrot, your potato, your broccoli, and of course I added the cauliflower as well. But you also can, if you use chicken stock, you'll get a little bit of your protein in there. And then you get some dairy added with the milk and the cheese. So it covers a lot of bases in terms of your food groups. And of course, broccoli is pretty fantastic all on its own because it's really loaded with vitamin C, which is great for our immune system. And of course, it's also got a lot of fiber in it to help with digestion. Okay. So I'm not going to tip the bowl really to show you because it is soup and I don't want to spill it. So I will add a picture so that you can see what it looked like. But I think it came out really well, and I'm just going to give it a little taste test. Very good. Lots of flavor in there. I did realize afterwards that They do say to add a bay leaf. I didn't happen to have any, but if you do use the bay leaf, just make sure that you remove it before you blend half of the soup or before you eat it, because the bay leaves are not edible. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this recipe. This recipe actually comes from one of our partners called Cooking Matters, and they have a lot of great recipes online. If you're looking for something different to make, you can go to cookingmatters.org, and of course you can also visit mainsnaped.org to find recipes as well. I hope you enjoy this and give it a try. Have a great night.